Back everybody, the Joey Osborne Show. I'm your host, Joey Osborne, and we are finally here. March Madness is upon us, and so for today's video, we are going to be doing a complete whole March Madness bracket predictions and who I think is going to finally come out this year and win March Madness. So, hope you guys enjoy. Let's just see who all we got here. So, let's start up here in the South, and we're going to start with Bama and I think Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and I'm going to go easily right here, Bama. They're going to kill them easily. I'm not worried about Corpus Christi. They had to play in a play-in game, and they're a 16th seed. I don't think they're anything to worry about. They did play good, but they're facing Bama. They're not going to stand a chance here. And next up here we have Maryland versus West Virginia University here, or WVU. And in this one here, I'm going to go with WVU. They have been playing very well recently. They're on a hot streak. And they play a good game. In Maryland, they're a good team. You know, they have beat some teams like Purdue and also like some of the big teams here. But West Virginia, they're on a hot streak, and I'm going to go West Virginia here, taking this one. And next up we have San Diego State, and I think this is, I'm trying to see who that is. I think that's College of Charleston, that's who it is. And this one here, let's just look at this, you know, definitely, it's very interesting. I think San Diego State's going to win here, though. I'll be honest, I think San Diego State's the better team overall. But it could be interesting. I could see this one being an upset, but right now I'm going to go San Diego State University. Next up here we have the University of Virginia and Furman. Furman, of course, this is the first time they've been in the March Madness tournament in 40 years. Last year they had some heartbreak in their championship game in their conference. This year, they get their revenge. And honestly, this one, I'm going to go WVU. West Virginia, not WVU. No, not Virginia, yeah. I think it's going to be a very close game because Virginia has struggled a decent bit this year, but I do think they're going to win. And I think it's going to be a very close game. They can go either way. I could also see Furman winning as well, but I think Virginia is going to win this here, I think. But it'll be a very close game, so watch out for that. Next up, we have Creighton and NC State. I'm going to go Creighton here. NC State's not that good, honestly. They shouldn't even be in that spot. I think they should have been in that play-in game, not Pitt. Because Pitt was clearly the better team out of both of them. And they've struggled a lot, NC State. I'm not sold on NC State. Creighton, they haven't been as good as they normally are. But they've still been very good this year, and they've been consistent. So I'm going to go Creighton Hill. And next up here we have Baylor and UCSB. I'm going to go Baylor Hill. USSB is very good. They're always a consistently good team, but they're facing Baylor. I think it's very unlikely they're able to beat Baylor. Baylor's just a good team. They're not as good as they have been the last 2 years, but they're still an elite team. And I think it's going to be tough for them to be able UCSB to beat Baylor. And I think I just got to give this here to Baylor. I think Baylor comes out and wins this. And next up here we have Missouri and Utah State. And this one's going to be an interesting one. I'm excited to see how this one goes. These are two pretty similar teams in my opinion. They shoot a lot. You can see how, shooting percentages in the 60s and the 50s. Winning percentages are around the same. Missouri does play in a tougher conference, so they do play in the SEC. But it's definitely, it's a tough one to go with. But I think this is going to be one of our upsets here. And I think I'm going to go with Utah State here. They're going to be Missouri. Yeah, I think that's going to be one of our first upsets here. So next up here we have Arizona and Princeton. I'm going to make this easy for you. It's going to be Arizona. I can't see Princeton winning this. Arizona is just too good right now. They're just a good team. And Princeton, they're a good team, but I don't think they have enough firepower to compete with someone like Arizona. And I think Arizona wins this pretty easily here. So, yeah. So next up here we have the East Division here. And we have Purdue going up against the FDU Knights. So, I'm going to make this easy here. You know, I'm a Butler guy. And Ethan Moore's a Purdue. Butler guy went to Purdue now. And he's playing now. I got to go Purdue here. I think they're going to win this pretty easily. I know they've had some inconsistencies as of late. But I think they win this. I think they should be able to win this. I think they're gonna get some revenge after last year with the whole losing to St. Peter's there. I think they're gonna get their revenge, and I think they're gonna make a deep run this year. especially since they have one of the best teams in the country. Like, a lot of people like Alabama a lot, but in my opinion, like, between the two best, I think it's Purdue or it's Alabama. And Purdue's going to be an insanely tough out to get. And if FDU has a chance being a 16 seed, I don't think they really do. But it's going to be really tough if they try to. But, you never know. Like, sometimes, you can have a big upset like this. But I think Purdue wins this pretty easily. Next up here, Memphis and Florida Atlantic University. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. I think this is going to be a close one, too. But I'm going to go, and I know Memphis is the 8th seed, but I think Florida Atlantic University is going to be the better team. They have a better winning percentage. They have a better shooting percentage. They have one similar opponent efficiency, but FAU's is level. And I think on this one, I'm going to go FAU. I'm going to go Florida Atlantic University. I say they're going to beat Memphis and move on to face Purdue here. And next up, we have Oral Roberts and Duke. And you know what? Here's another upset for you. Duke's, they've been really good of recent, but Oral Roberts is better. Oral Roberts is going to, I think, get Duke. It's going to be a close game, but they're going to get Duke, and they're going to take them out. And, yeah, there's no upset for you there. And next up, we have Tennessee and University of Louisiana, the Ragin' Cajuns. And Tennessee's been struggling as of late, and it's going to be interesting to see how this really does go. I think, honestly, their struggles right now at Tennessee, I could see them going out, and I think that actually they are going to go out here to the Ragin' Cajuns. Like, Tennessee's the better team, but there's a lot of injuries, and they've had inconsistency as of late, especially toward the end of the season here. So I'm going to go with the Ragin' Cajuns on this one. I know, like, 2 upsets in one spot. I know, I'm normally not this crazy with the upsets here, but Tennessee is really struggling, and I'm not sure they can really beat. I'm just not sure they can really go that far here. I think they have a good chance getting out of the first round, but it's tough, you know what I mean? And I think right now, actually, you know what? Actually, I do think Tennessee's going to win. I'm going to switch that. I think Tennessee will win. But it's going to be an insanely close game due to the fact that Tennessee's been struggling a lot, and they do have a decent amount of injuries. But next up, we have the University of Kentucky and Providence. Now, this is an interesting one here. They're similar teams. I think Kentucky's gonna win it, but it'll be insanely close. Like this won't be an easy cakewalk of a game. They're gonna have to play tough, and they're gonna have to play hard to win this thing, because Providence is very good. But I think University of Kentucky will win that, because they still have a solid team. They have their big player from last year back again, and I just can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try. But he, Naismith Player of the Year last year. Very talented team, and I think University of Kentucky is going to win this. Next up here is Kansas State and Montana State. I'm going to go with Kansas State here. Montana State, they've had a decently good season making it in here, but they don't play that many teams in the way of competition-wise that are that good. And this is going to be tough, really, for them to, beat Kansas State, and I don't think they can. So I'm going to go Kansas State here. So next up, we have Michigan State and USC. This is going to be a fun one. I feel like this is going to be one of the fun ones here. They're both teams that are pretty middle of the road here. This year, had a little more expectations for them. A little kind of middle of the road here. And, honestly, I think here, I'm going to look at this, recently, both of these teams' records here before I make a final decision here. But it's an interesting one here to think about. These are both, pretty closely, tight teams here. They're very similar in just the way they've played this year. But as of recently here, USC looks to be, if I'm not mistaken, they've done okay. So they've had a good stretch toward the end of the season. They lost to Arizona. I think that was the Pac championship they lost in, but they did get all the way there, and it was a close game. They only lost by 6 points to Arizona. And Michigan State here, I think they didn't do very well in the Big Ten tournament. They were expected to do more than what they did, but they also beat Indiana, but they've lost to Iowa. And they also lost to Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament. And that gives me some questions. They're very up and down here, and I'm going to go with USC here. I think they've been more consistent than the other two teams, and I think they pull off a win here. And next up, you have Marquette and Vermont. And I'm going to go Marquette here. I think Marquette's an insanely good team. They're really underrated because they're in the Big East, but do not sleep on Marquette. They are very good. They have a ton of speed, and I think they're going to have a great tournament. I think they're going to get decently far. I'm thinking probably they're going to get Sweet 16 here. If I would be correct, I think that's really going to land. And next up here, we have Houston and NKU, so Northern Kentucky. I'm going to make it easy. It's going to be Houston. It's just, these are two significantly different teams. North Kentucky University doesn't play that much in the way of good competition, and Houston is probably one of the best, if not the best, in the NCAA this year, and I'm going to go for Houston here. Next up, Iowa Auburn. This one's interesting. They're both very close teams, but I'm going to go Iowa in this one. I think Iowa's going to be the better of the two teams, and they're going to get the win here. Next up, we have Miami and Drake. Now, this is interesting here. Miami is they're also an up and down team, and too they're very interesting. But I think what I'm gonna say here, I think Miami's gonna win that. I think they will get past the first round, but it'll be a very tough game. And next up here we have Indiana and Kent State. And this is another interesting one here, too. Indiana, they've been very up and down this year. They've been up pretty high, and they've also been down kind of low. And Kent State has had a spectacular year so far. They don't play exactly as good of teams as Indiana does, because then, they're in the MAC, not the Big Ten. But Indiana has definitely, they beat Purdue, but they've lost to Iowa. They've had close ones against Michigan, which Michigan's just not that good this year. And they also lost to Penn State. So they lost some questions out of the two. And honestly, I will say this, Kent State's had a great year. And you know what? I'm going to say an upset here. Kent State wins. They're going to pull an upset on Indiana University. It's going to be a really close game. And it will go either way. But I'm going to put Kent State there. And next up here we have Iowa State and Pitt. And this one here, I'll be honest with you. The seeds will make it look like an upset, but it's really not an upset. I would say if Iowa State beats Pitt, that's an upset. If Pitt beats Iowa State, it's not an upset. Pitt, basically, they kind of got, the nicest way to say this, but they got put in a bad position by the ACC intentionally. They shouldn't have been in that playing game. It was a good game. If you watched last night, it was a fun game to watch. But clearly, Iowa State and Pitt, these are two vastly different teams. Iowa State has had trouble shooting the ball. Their records are kind of different here. Pitt has more wins to begin with, and Pitt plays in a tougher conference basketball-wise. And they also are better at shooting. I think Pitt's the better at the 3-point line. There's just a lot of areas where Pitt's just better at, and I gotta go with Pitt here. I think they take the win. Honestly, I think it's kind of interesting that Iowa State's at a 6. I don't think they should be at 6. I'm not sure how exactly they got themselves there, but they did get themselves there, and I'm not sure how Pitt had to do a whole playing game, but they also made them do that, so yeah. But next up we have Xavier, and we have, I think this is Kennesaw State. Yep. So on this one here, Xavier's been insanely good this year. But it's an interesting one. But I think I'm gonna go right now with Xavier. I think that's the better of the two teams, and I think Xavier's gonna win that one. And next up we have Penn State versus Texas A&M. And I think momentum is on the side of one team very big, and that is Penn State. They had a spectacular run to the Big Ten Finals before losing to Purdue in a close one. And you know what? They're going to continue that momentum, and they're going to go to the second round here. So we have a little interesting here. We have Penn State and Pitt possibly playing each other here. I don't know if that's going to happen here. When we get to that, I'll decide, but I don't know if they do or not, but it'll be interesting to see how exactly that happens. Next up, we have Texas and Colgate. I'm going to say Texas wins that pretty easily. But it's definitely a good game here. Actually, no, I think it'll be probably by at least 10 to 12 points Texas wins by. So not insanely close. Next up, we have Kansas and Howard. I'm going to go Kansas here. I think it's a tough take for them to be able to beat the Jayhawks. I think Kansas has another, championship run in them this year, and I think they're going to do it. I really like Kansas' chances this year. I think that's definitely the one to go with here. Next up, you have Arkansas and Illinois. That's an interesting one. Two very similar teams. So, it's very interesting to watch exactly what happens. As you can see by the stats we have up here right now, they're similar teams. They're close together with each other. This is a tough one. But I'm going to go Arkansas, I think, on this. I think Arkansas will pull out a victory at the end now. And next up, we have St. Mary's and VCU. I think I got to go... This is a tough one, because they're both insanely good. But they're also, in lesser known conferences, so it's tough to really judge them, especially when they don't play each other. So it's a tough one. They're both good. I think both of them could win this thing. This is one game that could go either way. So it's very interesting to see here, but I think I'm going to go St. Mary's to take the win on this one. I think they do win. And next up here we have UConn and Iona. And this is another one that's going to be interesting to see here, because the very similar teams once again. Iona has a better winning percentage, but I think I'm going to go UConn here. I think UConn does take a win in that. But it'll be close, and it'll be a close one. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. Next up here we have... This playing game not happened yet? ASU versus Nevada versus TCU. I'm gonna look this up here. I think that all the playing games would be done by this point. That's why I did it today, because I thought all the playing games were done. Let's see here. It may not be. Alright, let's see. CBS. Okay. So it's not done yet, but halftime it's 53-26 ASU. So it's probably going to be ASU. I would be surprised if not ASU, because I don't think they could blow that lead at halftime. 53-26. So we're going to say this is ASU, but they're going to lose to TCU in my opinion. I think TCU is a better team as of right now. But yeah, definitely two very good teams though, and it'll be a fun one to watch. Because right now it's halftime, but ASU is going to definitely win that. I'd be surprised if they blow it. But next up we have Gonzaga and Grand Canyon University. I think this is Grand Canyon's first appearance in the March Madness, so that's very cool. And they've had a great year so far, but I don't think they can take down Gonzaga. Gonzaga, they're not as good as they have been in the past, but they're definitely good enough, I think, to beat Grand Canyon University. And now next up here we have Boise and Northwestern. Honestly, I'm going to go Northwestern here. They've had a sneakily good year. If you watch their games when they play against other teams, they have played solidly, and they played very hard, especially defensively. They're very good on defense. Boise State, they've had a good year, but I think Northwestern, that defense is, if you watch it, they have a very good defense, and I think Northwestern wins that. Next up here we have UCLA and UNCA, which is UNC Nashville. I think they just won today to get decided in there, I think. I think that won the plans, but it's going to be USC wins. I just think that's what happens. So, yeah. So, let's go on to the second round here. Bama WVU. WVU has been great this year, but I think Bama takes them out here. It's a tough task to take down Bama, but I don't think they can. Next up here, San Diego State University and University of Virginia. Virginia has been off this year, but they still get the dub here, but it's a close game. In my opinion, I think it's going to be close. Next up here, we have Creighton and Baylor. Now, this one can be interesting. I think this can go either way here. It's definitely interesting, but you know what? I do think it's going to be Baylor. I'm going to go with Baylor on this one. I think they do edge out a win, but it's a very close game. Definitely something that's not, really that whole, not good. And we got some NFL news here, looks like. Hold on. Let's see. Orlando Browns just went to the Bengals. Oh, great. I want to steal scale. I don't like that. But yeah, Utah State and Arizona. I think Arizona pulls out a win now. and then move on to face Baylor in the Sweet 16. Next up here, Purdue versus Florida Atlantic University. Florida Atlantic University won, ends here, and Purdue takes a win pretty easily, in my opinion. Next up here, Oral Roberts in Tennessee. Oral Roberts is going to win in a blowout. Tennessee just cannot keep up, and they lose. Next up here, we have University of Kentucky and Kansas. I'm going to go University of Kentucky. I think they take the win here. That's what I'm going to go with. But it's going to be a close game. These are two very good teams, but I think University of Kentucky is going to pull an upset here. Next up here, Marquette versus USC. I'm going to go Marquette. They're very underrated, and I think they're going to have a deep one this year. Next up, Houston and Iowa. I'm going to say Houston wins, and Iowa is just not good enough to really pull an upset on Houston now. Next up here, Miami and Kent State. Miami has had a lot of flaws this year, and I think this is the point where it comes back to bite them big time. Kent State, they've had a phenomenal year, and they continue it, because they are going to go to the Sweet 16. They are one of the teams here that I think goes to the Sweet 16. That are underdogs. Next up, we have Xavier and Pitt. And as much as it pains me to say this because I'm a Pitt fan, I don't think they can beat Xavier. I think Xavier wins that. As much as I like Pitt, that's what's going to happen here, I think. But yeah, no, it definitely will be interesting to see. Now, next up, we have Penn State and Texas here. And this is another interesting one. I think this is Penn State. They've hit their stride at the perfect time. And I think momentum could help them out big time here. They're similar in a lot of ways. Opponent efficiencies, I guess, definitely interest here. But it's definitely a tough one because I think Texas plays in an easier conference than Penn State does. But it's a tough one to go on here. But I'm going to say we have an upset. Penn State. I'm going to go for them over Texas. But it's going to be like at the final minute. Like, it's going to be a very close game. But they do pull off an upset here, in my opinion. Because they keep going on the momentum they've been building in the Big Ten Championship. And I think they're going to go to this point here. They're going to go to the Sweet 16. Next up, we have Kansas and Arkansas. I think Arkansas's luck runs out. Kansas takes an easy dub. Next up here, St. Mary and UConn. I'm going to go St. Mary here. I think they're going to take a win over UConn because UConn has been up and down this year. St. Mary has been consistently good. I'm going to go St. Mary's here. Next up, TCU and Gonzaga. Close game, but I say Gonzaga takes the dub, though. Next up here, Northwestern and UCLA. I think Northwestern's had a great year, but they cannot stop UCLA. Even though UCLA is having some injuries, they just cannot keep up here with Northwestern. I think they can keep up with Northwestern, and Northwestern just can't, stand up there with them in that regard. Next up, we have Bama and University of Virginia. I think this is the point where University of Virginia gets exposed here, as it's not being that good. Bama wins that pretty easily here. Next up here, we have Baylor and Arizona. Now, this is going to be a tough game. I think definitely it's going to be interesting to see who all wins here. Baylor's struggling this year, and I think Arizona does win that. It's a close game, but Arizona does beat Baylor, though. But next up here we have Purdue and Oral Roberts. I'm going to go Purdue. I think Oral Roberts' luck runs out there, and they do take a loss there. Purdue, they're hungry from last year's disappointment. They want to get farther than I think they do here. And next up here we have University of Kentucky and Marquette. Here's an upset. University of Kentucky. They're going to take the dub. It'll be a close game between Marquette and University of Kentucky, but I think University of Kentucky pulls one out, and they have a great, run at it. Next up, we have Houston and Kent State. Kent State's one, I think, does luck out here. I think they do finally get out of it, but it's a close game with Houston. It will be a close game, though, I think. Next up, we have Xavier and PSU. Xavier is going to win that. Penn State's luck's going to run out here, as it usually does with the Cinderella teams in the Sweet 16. And we're going to have Xavier win that, and they'll go on to face Houston. Now, next up here, we have Kansas and St. Mary. A close game, but Kansas takes the dub, though. I think they do win. Then next up, you have Gonzaga and UCLA. And I'm going to go for an upset here. I think Gonzaga wins that. Close game, but I think Gonzaga does pull out the victory. Now, let's see. So now we are in the Elite Eight here, so we're nearly there. And with the Elite Eight here, we have first up here Bama and Arizona. I think Bama does win that, but it's a close game, and it'll be a fun one to watch. Next up here, Purdue and University of Kentucky. Kentucky's luck runs out right here, and Purdue's going to go to the Final Four against Bama here. Now, next up here, we have Houston and Xavier. I think Houston does win that, but it's a close one. But yeah, it's definitely very interesting. Actually, you know what? I don't like. I'm gonna go Xavier. Actually, I think they do pull an upset. I know I'm backtracking here, but let's just look at it. Like Houston does struggle normally. They do get to a point here. Around this point, they do fall off. Historically, in years past, and Xavier is a good team. So you know what? I am gonna actually switch that to Xavier. I think they are an upset. I don't think we have many upsets in the Elite Eight. But I think that is the one upset we do see in Elite Eight. And I think Kansas beats Gonzaga, but it's a close game. So we have 3 1 seeds in here, which is pretty odd, but it's just the way I think this year is going to play out. Normally I wouldn't put 3 1 seeds in here, but Bama, Purdue, and Kansas, this is insane. And honestly, I would want to put Houston in here, but I just think Houston, due to previous years, they're going to falter out here. Normally I would say Purdue too, but it seems like Purdue is a different team than last year. I think they do have it in them to get there. They got close last year, and I think they're going to try to get there this year. So I'm going to go Purdue on just saying they're going to not get upset here. But yeah, so now first up here, let's do Xavier and Kansas. Switched up a little bit. I'm going to say Kansas wins in a close game, and they get back to the championship. Now here we have Purdue and Alabama. Now, this is the interesting one. This is going to be the crazy game. Shooting percentage is literally the exact same. Alabama is ranked higher than Purdue, but because Purdue did have some, not the best losses. But overall, honestly, Alabama, I just don't know if I'm going to go all the way with them. I just think Purdue may pull out a dub here. I know it sounds crazy here, but I do actually think Purdue does get a dub over Bama. It's a close and tough game, but Purdue does get one in the end here. And they go on to face Kansas in the championship. And this is here with our final game. I'm going to say Kansas takes the win. As much as I like Purdue and I want them to win, I just don't think they can beat Kansas. But it's going to be a fun, close game. And I'm going to give the final score here 65-64. And that is going to do it here for our bracket prediction for March Madness. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned for more videos. And thank you guys for watching.